Mike. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. How are you doing? Alhamdulillah. So we're going to continue our series on how to connect to Qur'an. And today we have a very interesting topic, which is the bird's eye view of Surah. This is really the fundamental, one of the greatest tips how to connect to Qur'an. How many of you have moved from other state to Texas? This is an obvious question, all of us, right? All of us have moved from another state to here, right? So before you moved here, what did you do? I'm sure you went to look at the map, you look at where Texas is, you look at how close is it to the ocean, what kind of weather, what kind of culture, what kind of language, what kind of food, where the Islamic center, right? This is what we call high-level bird's eye view of Texas. The same thing goes with Qur'an, ya akhwani. The same thing. If I ask you to move to this state, does anybody know what's the left side area? What is that? Anybody can guess? That's in Norway. So if I ask you to move to Norway tomorrow, I'm sure you'll have to do a lot of homework, right? Have to find out what language, what culture, what kind of clothing, where are the Islamic center, right? You're going to have to find out a lot. And I'm giving you this example because that's exactly what's going on with Qur'an. Al-Qur'an, ya akhwani, every surah, it's called the word surah, means a sur, which is a wall. Every surah is like a city, is like a country, has its own character, has its own theme, has different topic, and has different area that is discussed. So every verse, everything that is discussed within that surah is related to the style, to the theme, and where it was revealed, whether it's in Makki or Madani. The same thing when it comes to us going to any place, we want to know the bird's eye view of that city, of that country, wherever we're going to go. So every surah, and this is a really good tip, if you want to connect Qur'an, you need to understand these three elements of each surah. The first one, the theme of the surah. Like Surah Makki, the surah that was revealed before the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, tend to have discussion about Tawheed, about Day of Judgment, and so forth. We're going to give a practical example today, so everything's going to be clear, inshallah. When it comes to Al-Madani, which is surah that was revealed after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, you'll find that it talks heavily about the policy, about the legal Islamic law, about the fiqh, marriage, the umrah, the riba, and so forth and so forth. It's all about Islamic law. The style is very, very important to know the style of the surah, right? And I'm going to share with you that in an example in a minute. The story, the verses or the surahs from Makki tend to be short, tend to have a rough tone to it, and to have a rhyme. It's going to have a rhyme, just like poetry, right? Where the surah that was revealed after the migration of Prophet ﷺ, they call it Surah Madani, they tend to be long. Like Surah, with Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah Al-Baqarah. This is Surah Al-Nisa. This is all surah that tend to have long verses, and they tend to be very long surah. When it comes to your audience, the surah that was revealed as Makki, they tend to address a non-Muslim, mushrikeen, right? Quraysh, and so forth. When it comes to Madani, it'll address people of the book, like Surah Ali Imran. It talks a lot about people of the book, right? The Christian and so forth. And it talks also about the previous prescription, the previous religions. Talk about hypocrites, because hypocrites tend to come more in Madani, because that's where Rasulullah had to deal with them in Medina. There was no hypocrites in Mecca, and so forth. So we're going to give some example today, inshallah, so you can appreciate it, how to connect to surah from high-level view, because it's going to give you an appreciation of the tone, of the style, of the rhyme, everything about that surah. Everyone reads Surah Al-Kahf, right, on Friday. When you look at Surah Al-Kahf, anybody knows if Surah Al-Kahf is Makki or Madani? How many said it's Madani? How many say Makki? You guys fasting today, right? You still fasting? Okay. So it's Makki. It's Makki. And I'll tell you why it's Makki. I'm going to give you some example right from the surah. All right. What about the style? So we said, if you remember the example, one more time. We said the theme is very important. So Surah Al-Kahf, what kind of theme does it have? What does it talk about? It talks about 4 stories, but those 4 stories, there is one theme, which is, look at the bottom. It says, the sign of the true prophethood of the Prophet ﷺ. This is one of the themes, the sign of the true prophethood of the Prophet ﷺ. If you go back and we say, okay, what about the style? Does it have some roughness to it? It does. Is it short or long? Medium, but the verse tends to be short and has a rhyme. It has a rhyme. Let's talk about the rhyme for a minute. If I pull the example of a rhyme, and I just so you can appreciate this, if I pull Surah Al-Kahf, you'll hear things like وَإِنَّا لَجَاعِلُونَ مَا عَلَيْهَا صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا. Then you hear عَجَبًا, right? And he said, Rashada, Adada, Amada. This is all considered rhyme. It sounds really beautiful, and that's how Surah Makki tend to have like a rhyme. It's like a poetry to it. So that's one of the reasons why also it's Makki. The audience of Surah Al-Kahf, who you think the audience were? Anybody? Who they were the audience? They were Mushrikeen in Mecca. Because the Mushrikeen in Mecca, they went to the Jew in Medina and they asked him, hey, what should we ask the Prophet ﷺ? And the people of Medina told him, ask him 3 questions. You know those 3 questions? Ar-Ruh, Dhul Qarnayn, and the people of the cave. Right? And then the Prophet ﷺ, you know the whole story. He said, I'll give you the answer, but he didn't say, inshallah. Then Allah, told him, don't say that. You should always say, inshallah. You know the whole story. So when it comes to Surah Al-Kahf, the beauty about Surah Al-Kahf has 4 stories, right? And all the stories are connected to one theme, and that theme is how we know the true prophethood of the Prophet ﷺ, right? It has those rhyme, it talks to the mushrikeen and all that. So if you know the style, the one I just shared with you, and how to know if it's Makki and Madani, and to know the theme and the audience, it's going to give you appreciation of the surah. Now you'll get to know what did Allah say, what He said. I'll give you another example. In Surah Al-Kahf, is there anything about Yawm Al-Qiyamah, Day of Judgment? Because that is a sign there is Surah Makki also. If there's a lot of discussion about Yawm Al-Qiyamah, you'll find that also in Makki. I'm going to give you an example so you can appreciate this. So you go to Surah Al-Kahf. Let me just find the example I have here. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَيَوْمَ نُسَيِّرُ الْجِبَالَ وَتَرَى الْأَرْضَ بَارِزَةً وَحَشَرْنَاهُمْ فَلَمْ نُغَادِرْ مِنْهُمْ أَحَدًا. This is verse 47. وَعُرِضُوا عَلَى رَبِّكَ صَفًّا لَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ بَلْ زَعَمْتُمْ أَن لَّن نَّجْعَلَكُمْ مَوْعِدًا. Well, this is all discussion about Yawm Al-Qiyamah. So why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about Yawm Al-Qiyamah in this surah? Anybody knows? Because it's surah Makki. And Makki, they tend to be heavy about Tawheed, Yawm Al-Qiyamah, Adab, the punishment, all that. That's what Surah Makki does. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought these verses here. The beauty about Qur'an, which is absolutely amazing. If I took one verse from Surah Al-Kahf, it doesn't belong to any surah except here. Everything's so precise, and every verse has been placed in the right surah. It's just unbelievable how this whole Qur'an, because a lot of people who have ignorance, especially non-Muslim, they think this Qur'an is just thrown together. It makes no sense. You find this verse and you jump to Yom Qiyamah and you jump to this and jump to this. No, there is a cohesiveness. There is a style. Everything is put in the right order. And we'll talk, inshallah, in the future about how some of they call cohesiveness or a nadam of the Qur'an, how the surah put together, how they come together, and how that structure of the surah serves the purpose and the theme, al-maqsad of the surah. So I don't want to take too much of your time. The idea from today is just you need to really appreciate the bird's eye view of the surah. And we'll talk more about the thematic tafsir, because every surah has a theme or themes. And once you get to know that theme, you're going to really love how to read the surah. You get to know all the verses that mention Qur'an, and they all serve the purpose of the maqsad of the theme of the surah. We'll talk more about that, inshallah, in future. I don't want to keep too long here. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولكم فاستغفروه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير.